You've done this more times than I have. Please join me in the chalice lighting words.
We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We like to speak in hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Today is the second Sunday of spring, and it's actually starting to feel like it. And as Charlotte said, it's a time of year that's all about transformation. Two major holidays this month. Easter celebrates I forget which comes first this year. They're very close together. Easter celebrates the transformation of resurrection. Passover celebrates the transformation of a people from slavery to freedom. And spring is transformation, from bare branches and mud and tiny buds to the greening and the flowering of the earth. Come, let us worship together. Please turn to hymn number 90 in the gray hymnal, From All the Fret and Fever of the Day. After we sing it, Bill's going to play it through one extra time so that you can look at the words to the second verse and let them sink in. Please rise and body your spirit.
This is the time of the service when we turn within for a time of shared quiet and reflection. So I invite you to take a comfortable position and maybe a few deep breaths. Leaving all of the cares of the day and going within. You may want to relax your forehead, your jaw. You want to relax your shoulders and your stomach. Find that space within you of quiet, of calm, of peace. I would like to read again the words of this morning's hymns. From all the fret and fever of the day, let there be moments when we turn away. And deaf to all confusing outer in, intensely listen for the voice within. In quietness and solitude we find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind. With clear, harmonious purpose, let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
We've all experienced transformation, whether by chance or by choice. Think of how we all started out in this life, a tiny gathering of cells and tissue, no hands or feet or brain at first. And through no conscious effort on our part, we ended up as unique individual human beings. And then we went on to become who we are today, transformed over and over by our parents, our third grade teacher, our first pet, our first love. Most of the transformations that we've experienced probably took a fair amount of time, and in many cases we may not have been aware that we were going through them. Each one of us here might be at the beginning of some transformation right now. Is there something new in your life? Some new joy or sorrow? Something new being asked of you? You may be starting a journey that will take you places you can't yet imagine, and you might not even know it. Or are you in the middle of a transformation? The middle is easier to recognize because it's often a struggle. It's the part where you have neither the egg nor the hatchling, the chicken, but something trying to hatch. It's the part that's uncomfortable. If you're the hatchling, you've run out of food and you've run out of room and there's nothing left to do but try to break open the shell that's holding you. And then figure out how you're supposed to stand up, and let alone what to do with your wings. Or are you completing a transition? And if so, how do you know when you're done? Sometimes you can see daylight, or maybe there's a graduation ceremony, but then again, are we ever really done with this business of becoming who we are? You know that saying about every ending being a new beginning. And what's it all about anyway? As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We affirm acceptance of one another as we are. We don't say, well, but of course, keep getting better. And yet, our third principle goes on to say something more. We covenant to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and, who can say it with me, encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. I've actually always wondered why it says in our congregations, but that'll be another sermon if I ever figure that out. So, spiritual growth. We know that life is change, like it or not. Lots of us don't like it. I was at my dentist's office the other day when the receptionist asked another patient if their insurance information had changed, and The person said, I swear this happened as I was sitting there thinking about this sermon. The person said, no, nothing's changed, which is good. I don't like change. But change is probably the one constant in life. So supposing we could work with it so that it changes us in a way that we would want. Here's a story about some of my experience of transformation. I was 14 when my older brother died. I've told this part of the story before, how I was afraid to love anybody after that because I didn't want the pain that went with loss, and how I was lucky to have enough love and support that I was able to decide for love and to understand that love and hurt are kind of a package deal, and to know that it was better to have both than not to love at all. Then 2 years ago, while I was doing my chaplaincy training at Strong Memorial Hospital, I noticed a recurring thread in my life. Chaplaincy training requires a lot of reflecting and writing and talking about what's going on inside emotionally for us as we work with patients and encounter their feelings and their stories. We have to be comfortable enough with our own stuff so that it doesn't get in the way of us working with their stuff. We have to constantly notice where the barriers are for us, the feelings or the situations that we might rather avoid. When I was first introduced to this concept 10 years ago, when I was an intern chaplain, I was amazed at the things that I learned about myself. I was already middle-aged. But I remember one patient who was quite angry about her illness, and I didn't see her anger until the day after I visited her. I had heard everything she said, but I didn't respond to the signals that she was angry because I wasn't comfortable with anger in general or with my own anger in particular. That was something I had to work on. Another time, I became aware that I was choosing to walk into rooms where there were women patients or family members rather than men, or people that looked like me rather than different from me. Fortunately, it wasn't hard to correct my bias, but I had to see it first. So we're always looking for our resistances, our growing edges. Anyway, 2 years ago, I was writing a self-evaluation when I had the thought that my whole life, at least from that time when I was 14 and made that decision for love, had been a series of lessons about learning to love more widely, more generously. I've learned about a lot of other things over the years, but most of the big lessons have been about loving. Now, the story doesn't end there, and I guess it won't end until the day I die, but some of you know that my 11-year-old grandniece, Maddie, died a couple of months ago from complications of the flu. I spent the better part of 2 days at the pediatric intensive care unit at Strong with my family, all of us hoping that she could make it, but knowing that the odds were against us. I can remember actually thinking to myself, this may be the thing that undoes me. I've experienced so many deaths. This one seemed like one too many. And yet we all held each other and loved each other. And later I found people to talk to when I needed to, because one of the things I've learned is that it's okay to have difficult feelings, and it's okay to have needs, and it's okay to reach out for help. And I went back to my work as a chaplain for other people going through losses with my heart still whole and open. I'm actually amazed at that still. But that is human resilience and human nature. I realize now that I am not in deciding for love, even though it will hurt. That's human nature. We almost can't not love. Or to put it more straightforwardly, we're built to love. There are all kinds of transformations, of course. Our country is certainly going through a transformation right now. So is our Unitarian Universalist Association. This building and this congregation is going through a transformation. But I'm thinking that in the middle of all of these transformations, and many more, there is a larger one going on for each of us, sort of behind the scenes. A lifelong transformation, if you will. Like my lessons about love. We may not always be aware of it, but it pulls us along towards some destination larger than ourselves. And it shapes who we are and the way we respond to things. And I suspect that we may each have some sense of what it's all about for us. Christine Walters Paintner, author of numerous books on spirituality, tells the story of her journey with rheumatoid arthritis. It was diagnosed when she was 21. She says that at first she dealt with it through denial. But after about 6 years, the pain and the fatigue forced her to give up her work as a high school teacher. She had disability insurance, and that sustained her financially for a year of rest and healing. She writes, "I lived much of that time with the fear that I would never be able to support myself financially. During that first year of disability, without any work to claim, when people asked me, 'What do you do?' I was often in emotional pain as well over the loss of an identity. I didn't look sick, and often came judgment from others, or inner judgment, about why I wasn't trying harder. Many people were supportive, but others offered unwelcome advice or explanations about how I wasn't thinking the right thoughts. A great gift arrived to me one day at church when a woman asked me that dreaded question. I responded about taking time for healing, and she said, 'Oh, you're on a sabbatical.' And with that phrase came a wave of relief, a connection to ancient wisdom about our need at times for deep restoration. My body responded with release." Christine Walters Paintner went on to write many books about spirituality and creativity, and her most recent book is called The Wisdom of the Body, a contemplative journey to wholeness for women. I don't want to put words in Paintner's mouth, but I think she's been on a lifelong transformation that has something to do with a deep acceptance, and she would probably say a welcome, of the gifts and the limitations of the body, and of the profound connections between body and soul. And now she's teaching others about that acceptance. So, I'm in a lifelong transformation that is all about opening my heart more and more. Do you know what your lifelong transformation might be about? Whatever it is, it's something that has already been growing in you and that will more and more empower you. It's like those Transformer action figures. Those toys that you twist and turn and they change into something that's very cool and powerful, but the thing they change into was within them all along. Now I'm going to caution you not to think too analytically about this, and then I'm going to give you something to think about. How many of you have taken a look at the Soul Matters package for April? There's a quote right at the top on the very first page after the cover from Henri Frédéric Amiel that contains this caution. Let mystery have its place in you. Do not always be turning up your whole soil with the plowshare of self-examination, but leave a little fallow corner in your heart, ready for any seed the winds may bring, and reserve a nook of shadow for the passing bird. Keep a place in your heart for the unexpected guest, an altar for an unknown God. And then the quote actually goes on further. I looked this up. Then, if a bird sing among your branches, do not be too eager to tame it. If you are conscious of something new, thought or feeling, wakening in the depths of your being, do not be in a hurry to let light in, to look at it. Let the springing germ have the protection of being forgotten. Hedge it round with quiet, and do not break in upon its darkness. So here's the part to think about. I came across an interfaith prayer by a British Unitarian minister, the Reverend Andrew Hill, that describes various religious traditions. It sounds to me like a list of possible candidates for lifelong transformation. Hill writes, "We are people on journeys. Our journeys have different names, which makes it hard for us to see that we may be traveling the same road. If we are Jewish, we call the road Exodus, freedom. If we are Hindu, we call the road moksha, release. If we are Christian, we call the road Christ's rising, salvation. If we are Muslim, we call the road Islam, submission to God. If we are pagan, we call the road nature, respect for our environment." Now I might quibble. I would actually reword this one to devotion to the earth and its rhythms. And I might add one that he doesn't include. If we are humanist, we call the road naturalism, human being. That's just my first stab at it. Maybe one of you could think about it and do a sermon on it. Anyway, Hill continues. If we are Buddhist, we call the road Bodhi, awakening. If we are Baha'i, we call the road Estihad, unity. If we are Sikh, we call the road Seva, service. But it is the same road, the road which starts with self and travels toward some larger dimension. Now I still want to add even more: peace, joy, mystery, emptiness, interdependence. What about you? What is the road you're on? What is your life inviting you to become? Through all the fret and fever of the day and all the tumult of life, what keeps drawing you in and on? Let us encourage one another to spiritual growth. Let us be tender with what we find within. In the words of our hymn, let us find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind, and then bring richer meaning to the world again. For just as naturally as it comes from within you and grows within you, it flows out from you, each and every one of you, to help guide our world through all its transformations. May it be so.
Our final song is 295, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. We extinguish the chalice flame. We
Extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, or the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
How's the birds going?
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.